today I'm gonna show you how to change this into this. Using Filtertable by Kilohearts. This is actually a recreation of AU5's Color Hypergrowl filter. He made it in Ableton, and I really like how it sounds and how clean it is. I recreated this inside of Patcher, and I want to show you how I recreated this. And if this is the first time you see me, hi, my name is Inxious. I'm a music producer and sound designer, and I love making content about what I do and what I learn. So, let's get going. First thing first, I highly recommend you go check out AU5's video where he explains everything and how he created those filter tables, because I'm not gonna say the same thing. I'm just gonna show you how I approach this and how I recreated this inside of FL Studio, because Ableton stock devices is different than FL Studio stock plugins. So I'm gonna show you those. Okay, to achieve this, you need 3 instances of filter table: the grain table, the wump table, and the chordal table. Those what AU5 describes the spectral movement, the vowel movement, and the chordal effect itself. So let's start with the grain table. This was a bit of a challenging because in the original video, AU5 uses the grain delay in Ableton, and we don't have such thing in FL Studio. So I have 2 options: go to Ableton to render this sound and bring it back into FL Studio. B is to create a custom patch inside of FL Studio that kind of gives the same sound. If you know me enough, you know I would go with option B. Okay, here I have a sawtooth wave. And in order to be able to create this, which sounds something like this, I created a custom patch, and I call it a grain metallifier, or this is actually what AU5 called this. And if we turn this on, here's a sawtooth wave again. And with this patch, let me open Wave Candy so we can see dry, wet. How I created this is by using multi-band delay and heavily modulate a lot of things inside of it. So it ended up sounding like this. So what I did is I automated the dry wet here and recorded this. You can render this or record this inside of Edison, like so. I set this on play and set record and play the sound. I set it on play because whenever it loops, it creates a marker, so I can just delete that and grab this here and call this grains. And then you can take this and load it into Filtertable and do all that stuff. The second thing is the wump filter. It's a low pass to a band pass to a high pass. And again, this is a stock device in Ableton, and we don't have this in FL Studio. So I had the same 2 options, and I went with B again because I love making patches. And this is really fun to do. It sounds like this. So how I recreated this, I made another custom patch, Morph Wump filter, and it sounds like this. Oh, sorry. This is how it sounds. I added a resonance control and a direct sub. How I created this, I used Love Filter and I modulated the chocolate state variable filter from low pass to band pass to high pass here in filter 1. As you can see. And created a direct sub for that. Okay, again, I made an automation clip, and into Edison, you go on play and record this. Now I delete this and I normalize that and bring it back here and name this WUMP. All right. Now, the last part, which is like, this is the most easy part actually, because we used a free plugin called ResSynth. How to connect ResSynth with Serum or any synth you have? Well, first thing, you need to like route Serum to an insert. For example, I put Serum here on 1. And for weird reasons, I put ResSynth on the master. So let me just put it on insert 1. ResSynth reads MIDI info. So in order to send a MIDI information to ResSynth, we need to use a MIDI out device. So we go here into the channel rack and we add a MIDI out. And inside the MIDI out, you can see a port. So let's say this is 1 and I go to ResSynth, and here in the settings, I set this input port to the same number of the MIDI out so they can communicate. Here it's port 1, so I put this on port 1. If this was like, for example, port 5, I put this on port 5 as well. Now I go to the channel rack here and add my notes or the chords I want or the scale that I want to send it to ResSynth in the piano roll here, and you can put any chord you want. For example, if you like pick any chord from here, like let's say minor 13th, and we put this here like this, and I want to take this A5 and this D5 to the same octave here. So I keep them in one octave. And now I add this pattern here, which is the MIDI out, to play with Serum together so I can get the effect. And the way AU5 set ResSynth in the video, bands per note is 12, and we automated the bandwidth. Now we can record this inside of Edison on play. And normalize this and put it here. And we can call this chordal table, for example. So you now have these 3 audio clips and you can import them inside of Filtertable and start making this. Now, let's say that we did all of that and you have them here like this. What we can do is we can go to the first one and hit Patcherize All, puts them all inside of Patcher. Now we can go to the surface and start adding macros. So you can go here and add a knob. You can turn on the grid so you can make them look nicer. Okay, and we call this spectral position. I'll add the knobs and get back to you quickly. All right, now I have all the knobs here. So the spectral position is we're gonna link this to the frames of the grain table. So I move this frame, I go and right click the grain table, I go to parameters, and here at the top you will find the last tweak, which is frames. So I turn this on and right click this and link it to spectral position. And now if we open this and move the spectral position, it's connected to it. For the spectral cutoff, it's the cutoff here. So we can move this like that and go back, right click, parameters, cutoff, and link it to spectral cutoff. Same goes with the resonance. We move the resonance, right click, parameters, resonance, right click, and link it to spectral resonance. And here we have it. Now, for the WUMP table, we're gonna be linking the WUMP, which is the frames, to the WUMP knob. So I move it, I go to last tweak and link it to the WUMP. And for the chordal depth, it's also the frames. So I move the frames, I right click this, parameters, frames, and link this to chordal depth here. Now, there is still much to do. Like, for example, the chord depth. This one you need to set a specific amount, like right click this, hit 600. The range of this would be from 600 to 1200. In order to do this, you need to constrain the range using a Fruity XY controller. And when you open this, make sure to make those all 0 so there is no smoothing, and you need to go to the output mapping here. I'm gonna show you this once and you can apply this range on anything. So we open the chordal here, we move it, and we right-click it, set 600. Okay, now we go here, and as you can see, I can't copy this. So in order to be able to copy this value, I really need to activate this. So I move it, I go to the chordal table, parameters, cutoff. This way, I activated this knob. So whenever I move it now, FL Studio will be seeing this. So I set this to 600 and right-click here. As you can see, it read this knob. I'll copy this value, which is 600, and paste it here. Now I'll do the same and say 1200 and go here, copy this value and paste it at the top here. Now we have the range of a 1 octave. So I now go to the inputs of XYZ controller and activate X as input and as output and link this here and link this to the chordal pitch. And this is how you constrain the range of a knob inside of Patcher. All right. There's 2 things I want to show you before we just end this video. The first thing is how to create a sub crossover. And the second thing is how I managed to create the spectral depth controlling the WUMP and the spectral position at the same time. If you remember, or if you watched AU5 video, the spectral depth, whenever he turn it on or increase its value, it makes that the WUMP filter moves the spectral position with it. So it creates movement with the filter. In Patcher, there is no way that you can link 2 knobs on the surface to each other's. Like whenever I move this, this will move. Unfortunately, we can't do this in Patcher, but there is a workaround for that I'm gonna show you. To start off with the sub crossover. To do this, you need to add the frequency splitter here and link this here, and you go and make this 2 bands. And again, you constrain the range of this with the XYZ controller trick I showed you. But here, I'm gonna send the lows to send 1 and the highs to send 2. And from here, I would go to outputs, turn off the main output, turn on send 1 and send 2. Yeah, that's because of the WUMP filter. Let me just turn this off. This is the low, so I'm gonna keep it clean, and this is the highs. And you can come back here to frequency splitter and turn on linear phase and change the crossover to 48, for example. And now if we turn on this one filter again, you have your sub crossover and you can link it to the knob as well. Now for the spectral depth, I used formula controller and I used a very, very simple formula. It is A multiplied by B multiplied by C, all right? And now I activated all the inputs, which is A and B and C. Okay, I linked this A to the spectral position, I linked B to the WUMP filter, and I linked C to spectral depth. So let me just open this up very quickly and hit monitor. Now, if we have the spectral depth all the way down, if I increase the spectral depth now, it creates movement here. But when it's all the way down, nothing happens. That because simply anything multiplied by 0, it's 0. I go here and link this to the frames of the first filter, which is the grain table. And now, whenever I move the WUMP filter, the effect will go to the spectral position. After some tweaking and making this looks nicer, let me just get back to you quickly. It looks something like this. As you can see here, I automated the WUMP, the spectral depth, the spectral position, the spectral resonance, the spectral cutoff, and the chord depth as well. You can't change the pitch of the chord from the chord pitch. But this can be a little bit tricky, so I made another version where I replaced this chord pitch with the chord resonance and added a slider where I tuned the settings to a specific key. Let me load that quickly, which looks something like this. And I can change the key now very easily. Those keys here are for major scales. So now it's on D sharp major. And this is on A sharp major. And as you expect, C here is the same as this C here, but an octave higher. So this is how I created the color Hypergrowl filter. I hope that was helpful. And I also added a help menu here, which you can see, that tells you all the controls and what they are doing. Probably gonna update this because here's a chord pitch, because I replaced this with a chord resonance. Again, I hope that was helpful and inspiring to you. And if you want to grab this patcher preset, make sure to become a Patreon member, and I'll try to also include the project file as well. And soon I'll be posting the video about how I recreated the Ultra Comp. I'll leave the video here when it's out, so make sure to check this one out because it's really interesting and it's really fun. And I'll see you there. Peace.